so much for joining us. I'm Dan Spieler. We're just 2 weeks away from the end of the month with the potential government shutdown still looming over Washington, even as House Speaker Kevin McCarthy calls for an impeachment inquiry into President Biden, whose son Hunter was just indicted this past week, the first child of a sitting president to be indicted. We'll get reaction from Indiana lawmakers today. But first, Raquel Martin with the latest from our Washington bureau.
Well, impeachment is reserved for high crimes and misdemeanors, but despite limited evidence so far, today Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy says he wants House committees to start building a case for impeachment against President Biden.
We will go wherever the evidence takes us.
Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy is directing House committees to launch a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Republicans accuse the president of misusing his office as vice president to enrich himself and his son Hunter.
Through our investigations, we have found that President Biden did lie to the American people about his own knowledge of his family's foreign business dealings.
The impeachment inquiry comes as McCarthy faces mounting pressure from conservative members of his own party. But moments after the announcement, one of them, Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, said the speaker's actions fall short.
This is a baby step following weeks of pressure from House conservatives to do more. We must move faster.
Democrats say Republicans' claims are unfounded and political.
The impeachment inquiry is absurd. The American people want us to do something that will make their lives better.
There's absolutely zero evidence that President Biden has actually engaged in any sort of supporter business dealings with his son.
A White House spokesperson calls the inquiry, quote, extreme politics at its worst. And even a handful of House Republicans are publicly opposed to this impeachment inquiry. Over the weekend, Colorado Congressman Ken Buck, who's part of the conservative House Freedom Caucus, said there's simply not enough evidence connecting the president to his son's dealings. For Now in Washington, Raquel Martin. Back to you.
Raquel, thanks. A number of Indiana lawmakers sharing their thoughts. Democratic Congressman Andre Carson said, I voted to impeach Donald Trump twice based on overwhelming evidence he abused his office. He says this new impeachment threat is a pathetic, hyper-partisan attempt to distract and deflect from criminal indictments against current and former elected officials from George Santos to Donald Trump. He said we can't let extremists run our government. Republican Aaron Houchin said the president's own actions and refusal to cooperate with our investigations has led us to this point. I support the Speaker's decision, Houchin said, to open the impeachment inquiry because there are serious questions about the president's conduct that she says must be answered. This week, former VP Mike Pence told reporters he welcomed the move to hold an impeachment inquiry. A day before, he had said he supported McCarthy's original plan to actually hold a vote on the floor first. Meantime, Pence sat down this week for a live town hall with Iowa voters that aired live on News Nation this week. Here's Brian Entin with a recap.
If I'm president, I mean, I like the premise of that question a lot, Leland.
There'll be more. Don't worry. That's sort of what this is about.
In a town hall hosted by News Nation anchor Leland Vittert, Pence says the GOP is facing an existential threat. Pence laid out what his presidency would look like, including whether he'd consider a woman running mate.
Well, Leland, when I was governor of Indiana, my first lieutenant governor was a woman. If I'm the Republican nominee, I don't want to get ahead of things, but I promise you, we're going to find that person who is the best qualified, the best prepared, and the most committed to the agenda that we felt called to advance.
The former vice president is polling in single digits behind several frontrunners, including his former running mate, Donald Trump.
I look at my competitors, my former running mate, others that have stepped forward, including my friend Vivek, who I met several years ago, and I hear them walking away from some of those same timeless conservative principles.
One emotional voter asked the former vice president how he would protect the trans community.
It is very hard for me to ask these questions after just hearing what I heard. What is your policy plan to protect the transgender community?
I'm deeply grieved to hear about those tragic circumstances. And I hear your heart. I hope you also hear my heart on this. For me, what adults do in their lives, decisions that they make, including transgender adults, is one thing. But for kids under the age of 18, there's a reason why we don't let you drive till you're 16. I'm saddened by the experiences that she recounts. Yeah. I really am. I don't think anyone should ever be mistreated or harassed or discriminated against because of who they are. what they believe. I'd like to put my arm around any one of those young people and just say, we love you, but wait.
Pence addressed his stance on abortion.
But the very idea that the generals at the Pentagon on some liberal Democrat agenda are using taxpayer dollars to undermine state laws for the protecting unborn children is just wrong. I commend Senator Tuberville, and rather than asking him to stand down, I ask the Pentagon to stand down. I promise you, if I'm president of the United States, we're going to get all this woke business out of the Pentagon.
Brian Entin, News Nation.
Now, Pence also discussed other issues making news this week, including the United Auto Workers strike and what it could mean for our economy.
I would expect that the negotiations between the UAW and our major auto workers is simply a reflection of the fact that families are hurting in this economy. If I'm president of the United States, we'll be sitting people down, we'll be figuring out how we can resolve these issues and move our economy and our communities forward.